Yeah, I'm talking about this episode. You know it. I'm sure you know it. And I'm sure you love it as well. This is by far one of the best episodes of Digimon O2. Um, so this episode is fairly simple. Kari has just keep dreaming, these nightmares and about this darker place, and it's not the fact that it's a dream. This place is an actual place there, and she's sitting there in class, and she starts basically flickering in and out of existence. She ends up in this place. TK, of course, gets really upset and scared, not knowing where she is, so he goes looking for her. He eventually gets there. Um, but while she's there, she meets the Scubamon, because they're not actually Scubamon. I think they said that this was kind of a mistranslation or an error, because they're not actually Scubamon. Although this is called Dagomon's Ocean, and Dagomon is a Digimon, these weren't actually Scubamon. Um, they may not have been Digimon at all. They just had the forms that looked like deep ones. Because once you see Dagomon, you'll be like, huh, he looks very familiar. And that's because he is based on our Lord and Savior Cthulhu, who awakes in his sleeping city of Relay to rise up and cover the world in darkness and reign over for 10,000 years. But yeah, it's a dark world, and Kari's going through it, and there's an empty town, just like in the Call of Cthulhu. Um, it's like a seaside port, and there's deep ones around and stuff like that. Um, but she finds these Scubamon in a cave, and she promises to help them. And well, after being helped, you have this happen. So they transform, and Kari's like, "You lied to me," and they're like, "We need you to come with us. You can lead us against our undersea master." And they want to okay, how do I say this? Uh, Kari is 13, right? But they want to okay, you know what? I'm playing a clip, so it's probably gonna get, copyrighted anyway, so I'm not gonna be able to monetize regardless. They want to impregnate her. They want to use her, have her become their queen, and they want to impregnate her so she can have children or offspring, and they can build an army and lead that army against, in a rebellion against their undersea master. But it's Japan. What do you expect? She obviously refuses. I mean, good. She's 13. Um, they get all handsy with her. Um, and then we've got the Angelwoman here, this badass bitch right here with her spirit gun. I mean, I would like to see her and Yusuke get into a fight and see whose spirit gun is more powerful. Um, but they start kind of slowly and creepily start backing into the water, and it's so off-putting. But they're like, "We thought you would love to lead us in a battle against our undersea master. I guess we were wrong." And then they kind of go on to say about how they were able to sense her, so there's no doubt that Dagomon has already been made aware of her presence because of how powerful she is. Um, Not only her emotions at the time, because of what got her in their got her there in the first place, but her Digimon. I mean, Gatomon, Angelwoman, all they're all powerful. Angelic Digimon. But they basically tell her that, if they could sense her, then no doubt that, their master's already sensed her as well, and he'll eventually come for her. Um, and they slowly disappear beneath the waves. And TK kind of comforts her, and because he's just like Davis, just constantly thirsty for this chick. They start to leave, and everything is sunshine, happiness, and rainbows, and this was. Then we get the scene that left all of us wanting the next episode or some kind of conclusion. And then the narrator goes on to say, "Who is this mysterious undersea master? Find out." No, and then we never find out. We never find out. Ever. At least here. We know that it's Dagomon. He does make an appearance several times. One of the newer episodes or new series, Digimon series, pays an homage to this episode. Because he does show up almost like the exact same way. He's corrupted by something, and he's essentially so powerful they can't even defeat him. They have to, push him into the digital world itself, because this isn't the digital world. This is like its own little separate parallel plane of existence, but it has ties to the digital world. But they have to push him into the digital world through, basically with Portal, because they can't beat him. They can't beat the guy because he's being controlled and boosted. Now he could easily be defeated. He's strong, but he's only an ultimate level Digimon, so he could be defeated. But because of whatever is corrupting him, it amps him up so much to where they couldn't defeat the guy. And by the episode's conclusion, they didn't do anything apart from send him to the digital world. Um, but just I mean, just look at that. I mean, here's the shoreline. Here's the shore right there for a comparison about how big this guy is. And you can see the tentacles. He's got the wings. And for reference, here's what he actually looks like. I mean, it's kind of squished, but you get the idea. You can see the tentacles. He's got the beads. And here's our Dark Lord and Savior Cthulhu. So you can see, obviously, parallels. But the Dark Ocean, it's a very awkward place because no one really fully knows how you get there. We know it deals with negative emotions. We know Kari was able to go there because of all the sadness and darkness she was feeling. Ken was able to go there after his brother died because he had wished, he's like, oh, I wish my brother would just disappear, and his brother dies, and he felt so guilty and felt just hopeless and sad, and and Oikawa kind of reached out to him in these messages and like, oh yeah, you're sad, but I know a place where you can go and you could be king. He gets there, he has a Digivice, and he dips it in the water and becomes the Dark D3. So he's kind of able to open up a portal now to this place if he really, when he wants, because it's now linked with him. But it seems like the more negative it is, the more negative emotion you have, you're more drawn to it. But if you're a particularly powerful individual, like a Digidestined, it has an easier time getting hold of you, like it did for Kari and Ken, even Yoli, who simply was feeling frustrated, and she somehow managed to get there. So it seems when you're a powerful person like a Digidestined and you're feeling any sense of hopelessness or whatever, it can easily grip you. And once you're there, well, here we have Maki Himekawa, who is in Digimon Tri Coexistence, and well, she doesn't exactly have the best fate. So she's drawn in there, and the Scubamon, she had Tapirmon as a partner, and she lost him, and he's eventually reborn, but she's no longer there to see it. when last seen, Maki was being pulled further into the dark ocean by the waves, hopelessly crying out for Tapirmon in the process. So presumably, she became uh, one of these because these are not really Digimon. There is a rumor or something saying that these are also humans who kind of gave in. You know, they fall deep into that ocean and they give into that darkness, and this is what happens to them. So, uh, and I think this as I think of that, you know, as like a really, really nice physical depiction of what it feels like. You know, so it's like when you lose someone or, you know, you lose a pet or whatever, and it's like, oh yeah, it feels like there's that emptiness inside you. You know, you're always told to just continue to strive to live in the light because, you know, you can let, you know, you could let that darkness take over, but then you're turned into something that you won't recognize. So people who fall into this dark world, they can escape with the light and the goodness in them, but people who choose or allow that darkness to fill them, they sink deeper, and then they're turned into something that you don't recognize. So I really think that's a really good interpretation for not only, I mean, obviously these are based on the deep ones from, you know, Cthulhu, his servants, but it's also a representation of that emptiness, that loneliness that you feel, and you can choose to continue to do good and be good and live in the light, or you can choose to allow yourself to be filled by that darkness and all that negativity, and you know you'll essentially become something that you and no one else recognizes, a darker version of yourself, or which I think they represent perfectly. So it's kind of got a double meaning there, you know, one being a reference, but one also, like I said, with the, you know, allowing yourself to fall to darkness. Um, but we never get a conclusion to this ever, you know, and every time he's shown or brought up, it's not nearly as good. That latest one with Digimon Ghost, whatever it was, that was the closest we got to a conclusion. But I would have loved to see the original because it would have taken everyone to beat this guy. It would have taken everyone. You know, it's like the fight with Myotismon, or rather Malomyotismon. It was kind of a cop out in some way because they're in this realm where they can make their imagination a reality. So all their Digimon with multiple Digivolutions, all of a sudden Davis has got Vmon and all his Digivolutions, and they've got this whole army of Digimon because they're all like, oh yeah, positivity and imagination, and they're raising, you know, they're creating this army to defeat the guy. Um, and even after he kind of wins, you know, like the entire world comes together to, you know, with their light to kind of banish his darkness, and they're able to finally defeat him. But here you're on this guy's turf, so it would have taken not just a newer cast of like Davis and Yoli and Cody, you know, TK, Kari, Ken, but then like Ty and Matt and Sora, all of them, and maybe even the whole world somehow managing all the Digidestined of the world, somehow shining their light into this world. That even in the darkest of places, that sort of thing. And it would have taken everyone just to defeat this guy. Because ultimate level, but if he really was consumed by this dark energy and he's like in the what it was in that new Digimon one, this guy would have been almost unbeatable. So they would need the entirety of the world coming together to defeat this guy. Um, but we don't get that. We don't get this epic battle. We don't get to go beneath the waves and see this undersea kingdom. And it's annoyed us for 20 something years because it had such potential. It had such potential. And I was thinking about it at work today. I'm like, I'm still pissed about it. And while, yes, some things are best left unsaid and unseen and mysterious, like if they fought him while he was like this, I would have been fine with that. Because quite frankly, what he actually looks like is kind of underwhelming. So if they were just fighting this huge, dark, shadowy figure and we never actually got a good look at him because he was just so massive, I would have been fine with that. I would have been fine with just that. But not even that. We didn't get it. We didn't get it. And it's like this thing was so big that even when it comes close, it's like think of like the episode Mystery at the Lighthouse of Pokemon with that big Dragonite. No matter how close it got, it was still basically shrouded in darkness. Even when it's right there at the lighthouse looking down, his eyes are glowing and like it's so creepy. I mean, we obviously knew it was a Dragonite, and Dragonites are nice and happy and they don't want to hurt anyone. But this thing is not nice and happy. But even as it gets closer to you, because of the fog and the darkness of the dark realm or the dark ocean, it's going to like stay shrouded in this mist, in this darkness. If they just kept him like that, I would have been fine. Imagine a battle with this thing. Again, you saw the scale. He is huge. Probably one of the, if not the biggest Digimon that they would have come up against. I'm trying to think of when they fought. I think Venomyotismon might have been just as big. Because if you remember Venomyotismon, he was huge. He was like same size as the tall buildings. I think he might have been the other only the biggest one. What about Apocalypse? I mean, he himself wasn't big. His like little gold thing that he was popping out of was massive, but he himself really wasn't that big. A Zulongmon was big, but he wasn't an enemy. But just to see these kids fight this thing would have been amazing, and especially in today's animation, the effects, the attack, all their attacks would be so beautiful, and just watching all this stuff hit this guy, and he's just like, woof. He just slowly flaps his wings, and they're all poof, blown back. Um, um, and this would have been a great end of series type thing. I mean, I would love for them. I love when people go up against something they just can't defeat. If they went against this guy and they could not defeat him, showing that the heroes, even though they might have fought him back, couldn't actually defeat him, I would have loved that. I love stories like that because I get so tired of, oh, the hero saves the day. You know? And I would love, I've said this before when I talking about World of Warcraft. We're the players, we're always the heroes. We're always fighting these galactic or cosmic beings, and we're always winning. I'm like, let us lose once. Imagine if there's a Dark Titan or the Old Gods. I want to see what would happen if we lose. Let us lose. What would happen if the Digidestined fought this thing back, but never could actually defeat him? What would happen? What would happen to them? What would happen to the world as a whole? Would it come back? Would it be just as powerful? Would he be weakened? Like, what would happen? But nope, they couldn't even do that. But it's such a good episode. From the music, the very creepy music, to the ambiance, to this silhouette of him, to Kari, just watching Kari sitting there, and she's flickering and phasing in and out of existence, between the real world and the dark ocean. It's so unsettling, and it's really one of Digimon's true like horror themed. It's not really horror as in like, oh my god, I'm so scared, but it's very unsettling. Not all horror has to be creepy, in your face jump scares. Just that feeling of uneasiness is enough. And I love that. I love when shows like this aren't afraid to push into that darker territory. And it was just a shame nothing came of this, because it had such a potential to be one of the greatest plots, and fights in Digimon history. you know? Um, but what did you guys think when you first saw this episode? Are you happy that it didn't have a conclusion? Like some things are best left unseen, allow us to make theories. Or are you like me and like I would have loved, you would have loved to just see them fight him this way. You don't actually see what he looks like, but they managed to fight him. And if so, would you want them to succeed? Would he be like a perfect, if he really is this world's version of like Cthulhu, who is far beyond human comprehension, and the largest armies in the world would not be able to fight the guy? Would you like to see them lose? And if so, what would you like to see happen afterwards? Do you want it to just kind of end with them pushing him back? Or do you want to see him actually defeat them? Let me know. But yeah, let me know anything about this episode you can think of. But that's going to do it for me. You guys know the drill. I'll see you guys later. Bye, guys.